this is the first topic that we're going to discuss for the final term, and this has something to do or related to our topic on natural resources, which is water resources. But we will discuss some of the ecological issues or environmental issues and management issues related to water and its utilization. Okay, so in the Earth's surface, one of the main components of the four reams of Earth system includes the hydrosphere. So you have the lithosphere, atmosphere, and you have the biosphere, which constitutes the biological system of the Earth. So hydrosphere includes all bodies of water, uh, can either be fresh water or salt water ecosystem, and other forms of water could be part of the gaseous or the atmosphere, which is the water vapor, and of course, the solid form, which is in the form of ice. Okay, so water on Earth or the hydrosphere system circulates within the Earth's surface due to the process of hydrologic cycles. So these are the different forms of water that recycles water on Earth. So for the hydrologic cycle, it involves different process. Okay, so we have the transpiration and evaporation. So evaporation is the conversion of liquid water into gaseous form. Particularly, you have the water vapor. Okay, so the evaporation is driven by the energy that is coming from the sun, particularly the solar energy. Okay, so there are also different ways on how liquid water is being transformed to the gaseous form, which is um, the water vapor. So within the vegetations, particularly the plant, they undergo what we so called the process of transpiration, which is very dependent on the environmental condition on a specific vegetation. So it converts liquid water within the plants that escapes outside the plant, forming the water vapor in the atmosphere. So water vapor, as you can see, as the arrow indicated, that goes onto the upper part of or within the atmosphere. So these water vapor forms or condense within the clouds. So that particular process is called condensation. So with the different concentration or higher concentration of water vapor, so it condenses into a liquid form and falls back to the ground or the earth's surface in the form of liquid water through the process of precipitation. So precipitation, this is actually the rainfall. Okay. So since after condensation process, medyo mabigat na yung part na to, so it gives off the liquid water in the form of precipitation. You have the rainfall. So within the rainfall, pwedeng precipitation happens within bodies of water, kaya diretso siya. And then precipitation can also happen on land surfaces wherein it supplies water and some bodies of water like rivers, streams, ponds, and lakes. Okay, so precipitation also may be absorbed by the soil or by the land in the process of infiltration. Okay, so infiltrate, ibig sabihin na absorb ng lupa yung water. Okay? So, papunta doon sa tinatawag na groundwater or water table. So, meron din tinatawag na process na percolation. So, the same is true with infiltration. It will goes, the water molecules or liquid water sips in to the soil, yun, particularly in the soil spaces or the pore spaces, and goes into its sink, which is the ground water or tinatawag na aquifer. When the time comes na sobra yung precipitation, it will saturate the soil. Ibig sabihin, punong-puno na ng water molecule ang soil. It could not actually accommodate large amount of precipitation. Kaya nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na runoff. Ibig sabihin, yun yung water na nagfo-flow from the upper part of mountain ranges or any part na medyo may slope papunta sa bodies of water. So, yun yung mga sobrang water na hindi na nag-i-infiltrate on the soil kaya pumupunta siya dito. Ito din yung runoff na nagko-contribute sa other bodies of water like rivers and streams. Ayan. So, papunta sa pinaka-sink, which is large bodies of water like lake, and goes onto, kung minsan naman yung river, nag-i-empty onto the ocean or different seas or saltwater ecosystem. Ayan. So, yun yung flow, and then it goes back to the process, may transpiration ulit, and then, and then the cycle will continues on how they um, recycle water. Ayan. So, pwede ding nagko-contribute sa liquid water ay solar energy coming from the sun, and then it melts some of the ice caps within the polar uh, regions, so it can add water to major oceans. Pwede din yun na event on the hydrologic cycles. You have evaporation, transpiration, then water vapor will condense, forming liquid water in the form of, and kung mabigat na siya, it undergo precipitation or rainfall. Ito naman yung water na nag-absorb sa ground or pwedeng sa runoff, feeding off water on major bodies of water like lakes and oceans. Okay. So we can recall that on the Earth's total water uh, in previous discussion on natural resources, the Earth's total water is with this particular fraction or proportion. So only 3% are considered fresh water and 95% are 95% is salt water. As you can see, the base or the sink of all water flow is within the ocean. Okay, and then this 3% of fresh water is divided into the ice caps or glaciers, which constitutes 68.7%, groundwater, which is 30.1%, and the other are 0.9%, and you have 0.3% for surface water. For the surface water, ito na yung different bodies of freshwater ecosystem. You have lakes, you have 87%, swamps 11%, and rivers you have 29%. So this is only 0.3% of the 3% of fresh water that is within the Earth's system. So we are dependent, usually humans, for domestic purposes and other purposes, we are dependent on this 0.3% surface water. Okay, ang iba gumagamit naman ng 30.1% of the 3% fresh water present in the earth. Okay, so most probably with the high number of individuals or human or high number of population, I don't know, this 3% can support the needs in terms of water, or fresh water and potable water for domestic purposes. Okay. So we have also discussed how water is being utilized or water resources is being utilized. So primarily for agriculture, in planting crops like of rice, economically important crops like rice, corn, and other annual crops. Pwede din yung orchards, especially during drought. Water is very important. And of course, for aquaculture and fisheries, so dito nire-raise yung mga fishes and other aquatic organisms that of economically or that is being produced as for human consumption and other purposes. Yan. So dito, ginagamit siya as water for plants. Dito naman, ginagamit siya as a raising ground, kumbaga, of aquatic organisms na very important as food and for other purposes. Water is also very important in industry, especially in the production of materials. Pwede yung food, pwede yung adding raw materials. For example, for food, it is very important for washing raw materials in the processing, for sanitation, yan. Yun yung primary na ginagamit niya. Other industries are using water as their coolant for their turbines and energy sources. Okay, so it is important na ginagamit siya for hindi mag-overheat yung mga ibang machines and energy sources sa mga industries. Okay. So water is also important as energy source. We have hydroelectric power plant. So in the Philippines, we have Aboitiz, I guess, that is using hydroelectric power plant, particularly it is situated in Davao City. So major river system of Sibulan and that traverse or rivers coming or water coming from Mount Apo that goes down to Sibulan River. Yun ang ginagamit ng Aboitiz as source of their power. Um, Konting information na in hydroelectric power plant, only 10% of the water will be left in the river system or any course of river, and the 90% is being used by the hydroelectric power plant. Okay, so the construction of hydroelectric power plant needs to secure permit from the water board. So ang water board ang magde-decide kung ipe-permit nila ang hydroelectric power plant. But the percentage of um, yung percentage ng hatian nung naiiwan sa river at yung napupunta sa hydroelectric power plant ay ganon. It's 10-90. Kaya mapapansin nyo, or I don't know if you go onto the river system or bodies of water na mm, nagiging source for hydroelectric power production, konti na lang yung nagfo-flow na water. Or pwede naman yung impoundment system just like of the dam. You have the Angat Dam, ano pa ba, the different dams in the country. So pwede yun, i-impound ka ng water and this particular flow is connected to a turbine which supplies energy for the turbines. Yan. And then it can be converted into electrical energy. Pwede din ganon yung sistema ng ano. Pwede ding falls, just like of Maria Cristina Falls, yung pagbagsak ng water. So the energy of that, the energy of water is being converted to electrical energy. Ayun. Yan. So, but the construction of dams and hydroelectric power facilities requires permit from the DNR, especially for environmental compliance certificate, and there are different or various considerations that needs to be done in order to put up a hydroelectric facility or any water impounding facility. Okay. So with the dams also, aside from the hydroelectric power production, it is being used to supply domestic or water for domestic purposes, especially for household and other establishment. Okay, so dito yung nagsusupply. Although this one undergoes treatment process in order to have a clean and potable water which is distributed to um, the different households for domestic purposes. Ayan, just like of yung nasa common sa news, you have the Angat Dam that supplies areas in Metro Manila, within Metro Manila and nearby provinces. So, yun yung proseso. So, most probably, since mataas ang population na sinusupply, kailangan din ng mataas na amount of water na binibigay. So, most likely, these dams are very dependent or dependent on precipitation para mag-resupply ng water at the same time to supply towards household or different households and establishments. Water is also used or different bodies of water is being used for leisure and recreation. So yung mga magagandang freshwater rivers, you have this particular activity, ayan. Or yung for recreation, you have beautiful beaches, okay, different aquatic sceneries, ayan. So mga cruise, ayan. So yun yung ibang utilization ng bodies of water, particularly water. Ayan. So for leisure and recreation. So for tourist attraction, for recreational activities, for leisure activities, may mga bodies of water na ginagamit or yun ang gamit ng ibang bodies of water, which is very important to your course as travel management. So you should be aware of the different sites for recreation and leisure, okay, or tourist areas which involves aquatic ecosystem. So as what I have said, there are bodies of water na ginagawang tourist area or tourist spots, just like in Bohol. I think this is Panglao. So we have Boracay for different beaches and other unexplored beaches or islands in the Philippines. So the archipelagic system of the Philippines, which is composed of different islands, makes it unique as a tourist spot. Kasi we have a lot of bodies of water that can be used as tourist area or tourist destination, and of course for recreational and leisure activities.